who's a retired of the Bronx Homicide Task Force. Sir, thanks for joining. Name right there correctly?
Well, Garrett is fine.
Okay, good. Well, as long as you're happy with it. I was reading the comments that you have given producers in advance of this interview. You believe the person who conducted her had thought about it, maybe not this particular victim, but thought about the crime for a very long time. What do you base that on?
Well, I base that on my own experience and research with these individuals. I have an entire textbook that addresses the psychopathic sexual sadist. Fantasy-driven behavior, and that's what we're seeing in this particular event, is a very unique type of crime, and the probabilities of having another crime like this are very slim because they actually reflect the person's innermost sexuality, their fantasy. What was done to the victim, the taping, the binding, the taping over the mouth to cause her to suffocate, are all the products of a sexual psychopath.
Can I interrupt you there, saying, because I also found it very interesting. You said that apparently tape of some kind was used to bind the victim. And Correct. You say it's very interesting in this case because the initial indications are that even though you have tape, it's very hard to use tape and not leave fingerprints on the adhesive, but there's been no sign of that.
According to the reports, they did not receive any fingerprints off the tape, which means he could have had a tape dispenser. What I find interesting is the over amount of tape. That fits the fantasy, as does the binding and what he did to this young woman's body, which was an extremely sadistic and vicious act. I look at this as a multi-scene investigation. We have the location where she was last seen, and we have the location where the body's found. Those are two knowns. The unknowns are, how did the offender gain access to her? Did she meet him on a prearranged date? Was he stalking her? The other unknown is, how did she get to where she was brought to? And the most important one is, he had to have a private place where he could involve himself with this sadistic fantasy.
Well, now, on that point, we're looking at the Falls Bar, where apparently this all started at one point, we believe, and they're now, investigators are going through a building near that. What do you read into those new developments?
That, to me, I can't speak to that because I have no knowledge of it. But knowing how criminal investigations go, they got some sort of a tip or information that led them to the building. I assure you that the police department is going in multiple directions. You have a multi-focus investigation. You have to keep in mind, this is a homicide case, so you have to eliminate friends and family. That's very time-consuming. We also have to look at the possibility of sex offenders in the area. We also have to look at recently released sex offenders. We also have to look to similar type events, such as the cabbie rapist. And we have to look at the VICAP system to see whether or not we have a similar event in another jurisdiction. So there's a lot going on in this investigation, and from a command perspective, I would say that this could be overwhelming to a small department. Thank God with the NYPD, we have a lot of personnel, a lot of expertise, and we can pursue these various leads.
All right. Well, we have new developments that we're staying on top of right here on Fox, so we'll be back to that story as they become more information becomes available. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.